Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Jagged Edge. This is Ian here along with Chris.
Woo! Welcome
Yeah,
back, everybody.
it's that's exactly the kind of mood you need for tonight.
Yeah.
Uh, we've as we hinted at last week, we got a packed show. A few things we're going to put in the back burner for our shows down the road, but there is a whole lot of news here, not just from movie developments, but from a lot of shows and of course from the comic continuum, our favorites
Yes, a
that have come
lot
out.
of comic stuff this week.
So lots of good stuff to talk about here. In fact, I don't want to waste a whole lot of time on that. I know there's a couple of really good news pieces. In fact, heck, we were just talking about comics. I think you had one in the DCEU I'd love to hear about.
There's a couple. I think actually, no. DCEUs. There's only one. I get it mixed up because it's something else that came out, kind of in the DCEU a little bit here, and we'll get to that. But yeah. So look, I'm not gonna be a big old negative Nancy about DCEU because they're trying. This is like, I don't know. I was gonna say it's kind of like what my dad used to say when I was little. You fucked up in reverse, which means that you didn't mean to do something good, but you did. But I don't. Maybe this ends up being the case. Warner Brothers has been making some steps as of late to try to course correct where the DCEU's been going. The signs of that have definitely been in all the stuff that we've talked about with the Batman movie. Good or bad, they're trying to pick up that mess.
Yeah,
But there definitely seems to be an opinion that a lot of what Warner Brothers is trying to do with the DCEU now is trying to course correct and trying to accept the fact that there was a couple missteps so far in the first couple of years, and that they're now trying a plan B.
right.
I hope so, and I hope it works. But one of the things that came up this week is that they're rushing into production. I think this is because Batman's not going to make the 2018 schedule that they had for it. So they're now rushing in production a second movie to be released next year. They're saying that this could be one of three movies. One of them is the Green Lantern Corps, which is one that they plan on doing. The other one is I think it's Birds of Prey. It's based on it's basically a Harley Quinn movie, but it's going to even evolve around, or revolve around is the word I'm looking for. Maybe evolve around too, but revolve around a lot of the female villains in the DC universe.
Right.
The third one, I think, was actually a push for Suicide Squad 2. And actually, I have to say that because their possible fourth one then is Justice League Dark.
Yeah. Justice League Dark. That rings a bit of a bell. I'm trying to see. Do you know if that was an arc? Any major arc?
No, I think it's even had its own run once or twice. I know it's it's had its own cartoon movies. A lot of people, it's got a bit of a cult following. I have to say I really don't know much about it at all. I believe Constantine is in there.
This follows the demonic invasion. Is supposed to be happening, and I know Batman takes a pretty central role in that too. Yeah, with you.
I don't know a lot about any of those really. Other than, I guess, the ones I know the most about would be the movies that I've seen with the Green Lantern, which I know that they're still a little trigger shy in rebooting at this point because the other one was not received very well, and Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, it could be fine, but for them to start a movie like this, a comic book movie of the typical caliber that if they are as far as budget and special effects and sets and story, especially intertwining it into a massive universe, a movie universe, 1 year. Keep in mind, none of these are even written yet.
Boy, oh boy.
So, look, I appreciate the effort. Hey, I definitely think there's some steps that they need to take to course correct. I don't think this is a good sign though, and I'm not. I don't know. No one, Warner Brothers doesn't know a thing about this movie. So, but I just settle down. Take
Yeah,
I appreciate taking a step back, and I think you should. But that
breathe,
Jesus,
breathe deep. Don't rush it. You don't have to bring out the whole continuum or
you don't.
introduce
Yeah,
everyone. Like,
they don't have to do 2 movies a
yeah,
year right now. I
yeah,
understand it. I think that's a perfectly achievable goal. We see Marvel doing it. I mean, a couple weeks ago we were talking about 4 movies this year? Four
yeah. It's
Marvel movies
wild.
this year. That's crazy. That's nuts. I worry that that's going to work. One of them's got to fall flat, and it's probably going to be Inhumans.
Yeah,
But you don't. Okay, your schedule completely got foobarred for various reasons. Directors leaving, issues with scripts, issues with how these movies have been turning out. You don't have to push out another movie so soon. They probably will. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't matter what I say about this.
it's in their hands in the
This
end.
is my opinion. I mean, I want these to do well. I don't want the DC universe to do poorly.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Well,
That's that.
there's something else though with Warner Brothers, since we're speaking on it, and we poked at this last week as well, talking about Matrix, the
Oh
relaunch.
yeah.
We were toying around the idea: is it a remake, a reboot? But if anything, I think some of what was established about this just little bit of tidbits about this, where it's going, is that there's already plenty of canon on the table, thinking that likely, at least Warner Brothers like the idea of working with that.
Yeah, so we commented on the news that came out late last week, which not a lot came out, but it was confirmed that Warner Brothers is talking about rebooting, or let me rephrase, relaunching The Matrix in some form. It wasn't clear if it was going to be a reboot or a continuation from the current canon or whatever, but they were going to do it. That they're planning to do it. In that Zach Penn is doing the treatment for it.
Mhm.
More so on the topic, a little bit more has come out. In fact, actually, Zach Penn has come out and said that he's against the idea of a reboot and wants to continue on with the current canon. Which I think is the right way to go. I guess
Yeah.
one of the ideas that's come out that some of the people really like is a prequel for a Morpheus movie.
Hmm. What? Well, I mean, which I could see. Obviously Morpheus has a really involved prehistory before he even runs into Neo. I mean, the whole, even the concept of the prophecies, how much that governs his life, his actions, everything he
Right.
does leading up to that. Hey, I think I always thought he was a great character, and I'd love to be filled in on it.
I will be honest with you, my complete feeling is he's probably one of the best characters to come out in the last 20 years, in my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic character. I can see it. I think there's definitely some compelling parts of his story.
Yeah.
I think maybe as a one shot,
Yeah.
maybe is testing the water a little bit as to what they would even do with this. And I guess if you're looking outside the box of the typical prequel trilogies and such, which tends to be what people do.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that with Lord of the Rings. We've seen that with Star Wars. We're seeing it now with the Alien franchise.
Yep.
Do one shot, see how it works. Test some stuff out. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a trilogy out of Morpheus. That's too much.
That would be that'd be a bad step. And since we're starting to establish the fact that they're willing to work with the canon on the ground, heck, I agree. If anything, I was always really interested to see, of course, the 20, 30, 40, $50 question, whatever you want to call it. What becomes of things after the truce happens between humanity and machines? We know that there's a cessation of war. It stops. Of course, the architect doesn't like that at all, and Neo's fate is unknown. But even beyond that, I want to see what that world's like. Because beforehand, you have, of course, humanity ruling and everything the Animatrix described. Then you have this age of machine rule, oppression. the Matrix restarted and everything, and now there's a lull. What happens in that? How long does that stay, and what comes after? I'm dying to know. I really hope they go beyond it. So
Yeah, I think the most interesting, and I talked a little bit about this last week too. I think the most interesting areas that they could go in right now is to do a whole new trilogy based on a previous version of the Matrix, or
mm,
maybe go in a different direction and do movies based on the next version of the Matrix. Let's say the whole piece thing falls apart.
yeah,
They
yeah,
could totally do a bait and switch on us and make us think that we're watching a previous version, but we're actually watching the next version after things fell apart, after peace didn't work, and everyone's been reinserted back into the Matrix, or it's there's a lot of different ways they could go, or they could do a movie or a trilogy possibly on that whole area immediately after.
yeah,
There's definitely a lot there as well. But yeah, I think rebooting would be a big mistake. It's not at the caliber of some of these other trilogies or some of these other franchises, but it is a damn good franchise, and there is a
yeah.
lot there. There's just no reason to, especially when you have. Again, you have a universe here that has already established that you can continue to use it and completely reboot what's going on at
Yeah.
the same time.
Yeah, while having these inconsistencies, one of the other really interesting things about it is obviously glitches to hiccups in said system cause different types of instabilities. For one thing, the anomaly himself, Neo, but also uh, if you look at what Smith did, effectively,
Hmm.
writing himself over all the different types of programs, and you just wonder what's that going to set up. Here's one that I was really interested in to see. I want to see them play with this idea. From when in Matrix One, when Neo shattered Smith,
Hmm.
he leapt inside him and basically broke him down, and he shattered into code and everything else. Now, whatever happened in that interaction obviously changed Smith, and even Smith himself couldn't really explain it. But I'm almost wondering, are those kinds of interactions limited to someone with power from the source, aka the One, or would some kind of other odd interaction, like a program like, let's say, Seraph, cause some other really odd inconsistency if they interacted with another piece of the Matrix or something native to the system? You can go so far with that, so
Right.
so far, and who knows?
Well, not to mention the fact that remember, I think it was in the second one. No, it was between the second and third where Smith infects one of the people who are not connected to the Matrix anymore,
Right,
and then
right,
he comes out of the Matrix and he's Smith.
right.
I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to go with it. I mean, then you have all the again, and they were mainly in the second one where you have all of the older programs that are like ghosts and such, and
Yeah,
there's all kinds of things to play with.
yeah, and I think the ghost almost function is heck. You could use that as like a Noah's Ark style device. I mean, if there's anyone who's seen previous versions or incarnations, I mean, here are your drifters. You have the whole the train station. Um, I mean, ferrying programs like to and from. Obviously, he's been around a long time, and he's probably seen how who knows how many incarnations. He reminds me of he's like the boot file, or like what the
Hmm.
program deep in the DOS database. He just doesn't really go away. You can reset it as many times as you want. He's going to perform his function, and you're always going to have that underground. That's another interesting thing to point out. We know by the end of the original trilogy, and of course Smith took over the whole Matrix. But that underground, that what the Merovingian was connected to, and all of them, it's pretty fascinating. They were obviously they were important. They had seen previous versions of the Matrix. Some of them were very powerful programs as well, but a lot of them actively chose not to do anything, not to interfere.
Right, right.
They sort of just existed in their own space, and heck, there's even room to look into that. So
Yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff. Before we move on to the next topic, I want to know if you've ever heard of a fan theory that about the Matrix, talking about that Neo was not the one, but Smith was the one.
yes, I have.
I don't think it's accurate, but it does fit.
Yeah.
I don't think that was Wachowski's intention at all. If you follow it and you know a little bit about what they were doing, the three movies very well fit the metaphors of life or birth, life, and death.
Right.
And I think that was their intention. I don't think their intention was ever for Smith to be seen as the one. But if you follow that theory, it does fit really well. It's kind of eerie, and I wonder if maybe that was unintentional.
Yeah.
But it really does fit.
It does. I mean, I know for this very argument, there's a couple of really important context points that people always point to. One is going back to the prophecy itself. The whole idea was that there was a man that had to be born inside the Matrix, and said man could rewrite the contents rather of the Matrix as he saw fit. Um, I mean, heck, and then if you look at, I mean, the end of, as I going back to what I said earlier, the end of the original Matrix, Neo takes out Smith, but he's obviously, completely alive, and that whole thing, isn't answered. So that whole birth, there's a lot of people that correlated that more in terms of, inside the Matrix, not looking at Neo's birth per se, or his function, but looking at that from Smith's angles. There's a few stretches here. I think in this when you dive into all of it in its entirety. Of course, I'm just taking some portions of it here. I'm not representing all of it, but it's still compelling. This is part of what I love about, I think, a cult classic like this is that you have the film, yes, but you spawn JFK level styles of wonderment for years, and it's the stuff that you keep talking about. The theories. It's the best, man.
Oh yeah, it's. I think I used this metaphor last week. I don't care. I'll use it again. It's fun to go down the rabbit hole with the Matrix. There's a lot there. There's a lot to play with. There's a lot to think about.
Also, the one thing about that theory I want to highlight real quick too, that I think throws here's the central wrench of it, saying that well, Neo was never born inside of it. So technically he was born outside of it. That is in the machine's human harvesting power plant.
Mm-hmm.
So right there, I mean, I get it. I get it. That's where the basis from it starts. But who knows? I'm kind of wondering if anybody out there follows that, sticks with the books.
It's intriguing stuff. So yeah, moving away from the Matrix, but continuing on with franchises. Ivan Reitman, original director of the Ghostbuster movies, which everyone should know. You better know that. He had a couple things to say about Ghostbusters this week. He came out and said that they immediately after the last Ghostbusters movie, which we have not talked about, not even outside of the show have we talked about. Did you see it?
The newest one, right? No.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. All right, we'll talk about that in a second. Because I'm sure there's a bunch of controversy with that.
Oh, yeah.
So, but he said that immediately after that they had gone into production to making a animated Ghostbusters movie. What do you think of that?
As in CG animated, or just straight, traditional animation as we know it?
He wasn't clear.
Like... You see, Ghostbusters is one of those that I have a really hard time divorcing from live action. I mean,
really,
I say that. Wait, as I say that, I know because we've had the cartoon. I mean,
right.
that's the centerpiece. But as weird as it sounds, it's just me. Ghostbusters is like my mind instantly jumps to like Bill Murray.
Right.
And I have. What I think, while the original animation, while the cartoon's there, I just tend to resonate more with this live action version. I don't know, something about that being right alongside with CG just sort of fits the whole Ghostbusters vibe. Who knows?
Well, go ahead.
No. That being said, heck, I mean, animation could very well go back to roots. It's not like I complain about it, but
I would be totally on board if they brought back the original. Real Ghostbusters crew, from the cartoon.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. I don't think that was the plan, especially with the direction they were trying to go with.
No.
Trying to create a new franchise with that movie, which they, it's kind of funny because he also goes on to say that there is still a plan to make more Ghostbuster movies. And again, he doesn't say much about it, but he does bring up the fact that there's a plan of coming out with multiple Ghostbuster movies and then connecting that in a Ghostbusters franchise universe.
Huh.
What do you? Well, okay. So you didn't see the last one. I did see it.
Right.
Now, Ghostbusters is much like Transformers. I mean, I'm an '80s kid. That was my stuff. I was the kid that ran around with the Ghostbusters T-shirt. I loved the Ghostbusters. They were the best thing ever. They could challenge Transformers. They could. They could. I don't think they would win in my heart, but they could. They could give it a run for its money there. I saw the new movie. The trailers are horrible. While I don't think. I don't think that it was the social justice warriors out
Right.
to swap the cast and make them all female and then make the secretary a guy, and I don't think it was about diversity or social justice. I think they had an idea of rebooting it, and somebody had an idea of an all-female cast with a lot of great actresses in mind.
Right.
And I think it was genuine. Let me put it that way, because I'm kind of stumbling on that. I think it was a genuine attempt to switch things up, not for the sake of social justice, but to put a spin on it. It was okay. It missed the mark. The movie missed the mark. It's not as bad as the haters say, and not all the haters. I'm sure there's people that genuinely didn't like a lot of what they did, but it was also funny. It was funny. There were some funny moments, and yeah, it falls apart at the end. It's horrible at the end, but for a lot of it, it's funny, and a lot of those actresses are funny, and but is that what I would have picked for almost 30 years later?
Yeah.
Hell no. 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 That was the worst idea. There was no way. Even if that movie would have been great, there's no way we would be seeing a second one.
Right.
Because the fan base for Ghostbusters is as fierce as they come, and there's enough of them to where they never would. The masses. It wasn't a cult following of Ghostbusters people, although that does exist. In general, this was a mass exodus from this franchise, and it was obvious, right or wrong. It was obvious, and there was no way it was going to knock it out of the park. They wouldn't let it happen. It was dumb. It was a dumb thing for them to do. I really don't know if I want to. Look, we talk a lot about this stuff. We talk about the DCEU. We talk about the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
A Ghostbusters universe. No, I say as much as I love the Ghostbusters, and I do. I love the original Ghostbusters is one of the best movies ever made. Period. You agree with that, right?
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say we're gonna have to stop this show right
now. No.
Yeah.
No, that's part of the reason it goes back why the live action is so synonymous in my mind when I think of the series.
And part of what makes it so great was that it was never supposed to be that great.
Yeah.
Part of what makes the original Ghostbusters such a great movie was that if you know enough about it, you hear enough about it, and what they were originally making and the original plans, it wasn't meant to be what it was.
No.
It was meant to attempt to be something like that. But and a lot of that goes to Bill Murray. He deserves all the credit in the world for a lot of it. But in general, that's what worries a lot of people about making a reboot. At the same time, that's why a lot of people have wanted a third Ghostbusters for years, is because try to capture that again. The second one missed the mark a bit, but it was still fun, it's still entertaining.
Right.
But a shared universe. How and with what?
Well, the whole universe idea, it's really caught on. Look, if you look at what Marvel's done with it, I know we cite that a lot, but I sort of feel this is the put your foot in the water test evolution of a trilogy. The trilogy's well established at this point. Especially when you have a successful franchise, you make a run off of that, and I think you have a lot of creative minds thinking, okay, well, what's the next step beyond that? Well, if said foundation's large enough, for this franchise, let's start exploring the universe of it. Let's start looking at the whole thing. Let's chain it together. It's important to note. I think it's a trend that's not only happening in live action movies, but it's really carried over in animation as well. Heck, even on an anime. I mean, it just, for goodness sake,
Has it?
let's take Dragon Ball. That's come back after how many years? And there's a brand new freaking series, Dragon Ball Super, that again, it's taking the Dragon Ball universe and expanding all of it beyond just the story of the current universe, just the story of the characters you know. Uh, I mean, there's a number of others, but uh, these sort of grand tour, these big road tours. Now, it's almost like you have some franchises that have gotten so large to the point where people are confident enough in the content to say, you know what, let's just go big with this. Let's start exploring the whole thing and just tie it together, and see what's up.
I get some of these. With the success of shared universes, I get why they're trying to redo the monster universe, like Dracula and Wolfman and Mummy
Right.
and all that. I get that. That actually makes sense. That is a logical attempt at something that they kind of did and originated 50, 60 years ago. I
Right.
get that. I even get doing it again in a similar vein with Godzilla and King Kong and trying to create that again, very similar to the last example. Ghostbusters, as great as it is, does not have the content for a shared universe.
Yeah.
And even if you could stretch it out, there's not enough content desired. Not nobody. The vast majority don't want to see this crew from the last movie back together again. They don't. And I thought they did fine. But I don't want to see a sequel because
Right.
I think as much as it missed the mark, they kind of got lucky with the last one too, with as good as it was.
Yeah.
So you really should see it. I understand if you don't. I understand why you stayed away with it if you intentionally stayed away from it, Ian. But it's fun enough. It's all right. But I just don't think there's enough here.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially as what you're saying. I mean, if it started off as something that's supposed to have, some action, some humor, but keeping that lightheartedness. I think that's a quality of the Ghostbusters series that's endured. It's not light to the point where you've gone like Barney mode or something like that, but it's to the point where there's always some chuckles there. There's some, like, of course, some semi-serious situations and everything, and the whole world endangerment, but it never veers as serious as something like Matrix. I never feel the same type of gravity in that regard. So, you know, I think it can pull that off, but even those I think stand as single movies or maybe a couple in a row, not an entire universe.
You know, I'm gonna skip on our notes here. I'm gonna skip one here and go back to it
Yeah.
because I want to continue to talk about horrible ideas from Sony.
Okay, what you got?
So, people said it for years and they said it for forever. Give Spider-Man back to Marvel. Let them put him in their MCU, and they did, and they started with Civil War, and it was awesome.
Yep.
As awesome as everyone hoped it could be, it was that awesome, and then it was even a little bit better.
Yep.
It was great. So in the last couple of weeks, and I skipped this when it came out a couple of weeks ago because I wanted to hear the information fleshed out a little bit more. But now after what I've heard, I think this actually dropped today. So Sony is attempting to make the most out of the fact that they are paying a lot for the Spider-Man name to make the Spider-Man movies. So it came out about a week ago or so that they are now moving forward with an old idea that they had of doing a Venom movie. And the reason I wanted to sit on that was because it wasn't clear at the time if it was going to be part of the MCU or not.
Right.
This idea, also I didn't really have an opinion of it because I could see this being awesome.
Yeah, heck yeah, it could.
Venom by himself could carry his own movie.
Yeah.
It's that good of a concept. It's that good of a character.
Yeah.
Him being in the MCU and starting out with his own movie could be even better.
See.
So there was a lot, but I wanted to wait. But now that they came out today, that they're starting their own Spider-Man universe, disconnected from the MCU, and they're also in production of making a Black Cat and Silver Sable movies.
See, it's interesting because as long as these two have been in contention, I almost want to say doing this separate spinoff might be one of the best steps they can do. And I say that because if you use Venom as the spearhead to that movement, that's got some potential. You know, Venom is not just a hypothetical that he could carry his own. I mean, you know, he's had his own run for a lot, and he was very interesting to follow as a character. You know, especially he has this real twisted sense of justice, but he doesn't have the same type of conflicts I think a lot of superheroes struggle with. He doesn't always run into the exact same types of like morality questions and stuff like that. But in the same hand, he's not like completely insane killer. Carnage represents I think the most extreme part of a symbiotic relationship in a host.
Right.
But Venom, yeah, man. I mean, if you angle that right, it's very easy to take him out of the context of Spider-Man because you know what? He gets over that. You know, yeah, there's the whole identity thing and about how Peter Parker had the suit for a while, so on and so forth. But he's never been based in that. He was able to go off on his own multiple times in comic continuum, and he was a great follow. Had nothing to do with Parker's life or Spider-Man or anything. So,
well, what about Black Cat and Silver Sable?
Black Cat almost always, at least from my longest memory, had appearances alongside Spidey. She,
Right.
that wasn't always necessarily like an accessory role. It could have been she was the temp villain for an episode or so, and then she kind of worked her way into good graces, or you know, the second tease behind Mary Jane or whatever else. But it that's a harder one. If I was to put the two side by side, I'd want to say Black Cat probably has the higher recognition factor. But
Venom?
No. Then no, Black Cat and Sable.
Oh, Silver Sable. Okay, I was gonna say.
No.
Okay.
I don't dare. But here's the trouble. I personally can't think of direct antagonists that either of those two have had, or
Right.
struggles that we'd be interested in following. Interesting storyline. I think you'd have to, unless I'm completely missing something that happened in the comics, I think you'd have to stretch those a bit to make them really compelling.
No, it took me a good while today to even remember who the hell Silver Sable was.
Yeah.
I had to look up some pictures, and even then, she looks about as cliche '90s comic book character as you get. It's kind of daunting. Black Cat's awesome, but
Yeah.
Black Cat has always been surrounded by Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Well, okay, not always, but almost always. She's a great antagonist for him. Venom. I think Venom could carry his own trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He could carry his own. You could do a Venom Carnage trilogy, or not even without Carnage, but Venom can carry his own. But once you start going into the shared universe realm again, then I think you can't help but to be reminded of the fact that Venom. You know, it's like if you what's the first thing you think of when you think of Doctor Doom?
I mean, Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four, and I think you'll have the same situation with Venom if you put him in a shared universe.
Yeah.
You think Venom, then you think it's a shared universe. Then you think Spider-Man immediately.
Yeah, exactly. Which reminds me that I think the step to all this, maybe not instead of broadening those universes, going huge with scope, kind of narrow that a bit. As you said, you know, Venom can be in his own. Maybe if you introduce, you know, Carnage or other characters like that. But with for Black Cat, and Sable, I think maybe even just narrowing that, just having them just side by side. I know I think as part of this, you're saying there's some. I believe that's being floated a bit too. Just having both of them in the same movie. If anything, heck, I mean, I think that could establish, I mean, a good base for it. Just having them side by side. I mean, Silver Sable is one of those you said that's just so sort of off the chart. Like I can I roughly conjure the image in my mind whenever like I hear about her character, but there's nothing that I think of off the top of my head that makes me want to jump like, oh my god, Silver Sable. Oh my god, this, 'cause I remember X and X, you know. this is what would make this really compelling. Who knows? Heard.
I could even see a Black Cat standalone movie, but
Yeah,
then thinking about that, I immediately think about the Catwoman movie.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
And there's obviously entanglements to give you reminders to that, but yeah, that again, one of the worst movies ever made. Yeah, Halle Berry's career was never the same after.
No, no, it wasn't.
But so you might be hard pressed to find a decent actress for that, but I could see them all saying no.
Yeah.
Um, look, Sony, stop it, stop it. Jesus. I mean, do you remember what we were supposed to by this point? Let's say Amazing Spider-Man 2, which by the way was not a bad movie, but was not what it should have been.
Right.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2. If that had launched the way they'd planned on it, we would have gotten the Amazing Spider-Man 3 and I think Sinister Six by now.
Yeah, man. See, that was the other part I was thinking of. That this is what we from the Spider-Man continuum that we haven't had introduced yet. That was hands down one of the most action-packed arcs and one of the most challenging Spider-Man ever dealt with. And I always said, man, if we could build to the point where we could involve Sinister Six, that would be killer. Whether it's in a TV series or whether it was in movie form, because all the stuff I ever saw within animations, everything I read in the comics was awesome for this.
And I believe the plan was also, well, no, in fact, I know the plan was to do a Venom movie, but they were also going to do an Aunt May movie. An Aunt May movie.
How could... May,
she's a spy.
No.
This leaked in the Sony emails that came out a couple years ago. This was a real thing. This was a planned idea. She was an Aunt May movie where she's a spy. That was a thing. That there was people writing that.
Oh my gosh.
They just need to stop. What? You've got your foot. You got your foot in the MCU. You've got your foot in the biggest shared universe. The reimagining of creating the shared universe thing that has been bigger and better and more popular than any time in history for this kind of thing. You not only have your foot in there, you've got one of the keystone guys. What are you doing? I mean, for those of us who know the importance of Spider-Man, just in the upcoming Infinity War movie, if they follow with the comics, he gets potential spoilers. Spoilers, because I'm dead serious. Because if they do this, it's going to be a huge spoiler. So, so go ahead a few minutes then, if you don't want to hear this. He's the one that beats Thanos.
Yep.
He gets the Infinity Gauntlet.
Kind of a big deal.
Your guy's the keystone guy.
Yeah.
Which they don't have to follow that, and the MCU's following. They've established enough to where they wouldn't have to, but they're stupid not to.
Oh boy.
Because you know what? Even if they don't, he's still Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And the new Spider-Man's awesome, and everybody wants to see your Spider-Man movies now.
Yep.
Everyone's expecting what they've heard about putting them out one a year like Harry Potter. Do it.
Would love it. Would love it. I mean, if the snippet we got in Civil War is any sign at that type of pace, I'm there. Like that. I mean, that nailed him.
This whole Infinity War thing is a perfect way to introduce Venom in the MCU.
Yeah, it actually is.
Oh my God. But no. Whatever. It's Sony, and this is why I'm sure Sony and Marvel have the deal that they have, and why Marvel has ultimate creative control.
Right.
And that probably pisses them off, and they're probably removed enough from the failures that they had with Spider-Man 3 and the Amazing Spider-Man movies. They're like, well, we can do this shit. You haven't done it yet.
Oh boy. Oh, Sony.
All right. It's just me. It's just me giving out bad advice this week. That's all it is. This is just me giving out bad advice this week. We'll see. We'll see. And I'm like this because I care, because I would like to, and
Of
I don't
course.
know, and no one has said anything about how Marvel feels about this, because I'm sure they probably would have loved to have used Venom.
Oh, of course.
Sure,
It's just so. It's such an awkward relationship, and it's so tenuous too, because it always feels like you're waiting for a time bomb. You're always saying in the back of your mind, okay, if they introduce this character, oh, this is what this is probably going to mean going forward, and they can't do this, and then you couldn't do that because,
Well, yeah, no, it's like two kids, it's like two brothers, and I say this because I've been in a very similar situation myself, with myself and my brother. It's like two brothers, and one of them has all these great toys, but at one point he lost a bet with his brother, so then he lost one of his very favorite toys,
yeah,
and all of his surrounding toys that went with that one. And so he's just got to watch his brother play with it and break the leg. And like there's a big scratch on the arm, and it's like, but he's like, look, can we at least play with that one every once in a while? And like, look what I've done since that toy's been gone. I've got all these awesome toys now, and we can both have a lot of fun with this. And just come in with that toy and play with us in this whole thing. And he's like, all right. And but then he's got all the side toys, and he's just. You get where I'm going with this.
everybody, if you ever wanted a summary of what we have as Sony v Marvel here, I don't think I could have worded it better.
It's just. All right. Let's move on.
Moving on to something.
I don't think anything else needs to be said. Now let's talk. I'll do all the segues this week. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna be like that with something big like this? Come on, with lightsabers involved, you gotta let me have a piece of that. Come on.
I don't think you deserve it, sir. Considering you didn't even.
I don't. Whatevs. Oh, whatevs.
No. Okay. No. Go.
No.
That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. Take one of my toys. That's fine.
Hey, you know what? I will. And in fact, if I recall, Blu-ray to Rogue One got announced recently.
Oh yeah, that's been announced for a couple weeks now.
Yeah.
I think I think digital comes out at the end of this month, maybe even this week or early next week, and the Blu-ray comes out. I want it April 4th.
I hope not October. Please don't. Yeah, not what I saw, but yeah, no, I was just looking at the promo for the release of that. Don't worry, I will have it. So
I hope so.
We'll erase that mistake, Buck. All right.
Well, we'll wait to talk about that, because I mean, when we started the show, we just kind of missed out on Rogue One. I think we talked about it a little bit, but when the DVD comes out, we'll talk about stuff, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about with Rogue One. But a lot of things, because I mean, I think it's something with somewhere like about at least around half of that movie was redone. And there's a lot to that. The final product was phenomenal, but
right.
But yeah, okay. So on Star Wars, on huge, massive universes, that has been rebooted successfully, which is kind of amazing. Now that I think about it, considering all the shared universe stuff we're talking about this week.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. That's
Twin
right.
Sons. Twin Sons, man. I mean, hey, I give you total cred for this. You told me about this series that I had not seen, and specifically an instance, a snapshot that happened during this for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and also ever famous Darth Maul. And I think to a layman Star Wars fan like myself, this is something that was pretty much assumed, resolved. As I was saying, we were talking about this earlier in the week. Last most people know of Darth Maul was cleaved in half. Fell down that long tube. That was all that's to it. But as Twin Sons, actually, there was this whole arc. You were saying that was
50 years later.
Yeah, that's built around him and not just his explorations, but also the type of power that he gains. Him coming into rule. Of course, that gets shut down at some point. But I all that aside, this really crazy moment that I never expected to see popped up, and it was a intense but brief battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. And there's a lot of feels here, of course. For anybody, if you've gone through the Star Wars series, you recognize how what Darth Maul took from Kenobi. Moreover, I mean, of course, you think of the context of Qui-Gon.
Well, we
And
haven't even. Well, there's Qui-Gon, but we haven't even talked about that. Some of the other things. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, right there. This one just surprised me in all the right ways. I really, really enjoyed it. Again, didn't expect to see a parody like this, but it's especially how much symbolism there was involved in it. But I think there's a little bit more of it to unpack. But you brought up a lot of the history to this beforehand. I'd like to hear you delve into that a bit.
Well, and part of what I'm referencing, and again, guys, skip ahead a few minutes if you don't want to be spoiled on this, because, there's a showdown that happens. I want to say within a couple years of A New Hope, between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul, who, if you've only ever watched the movies, Darth Maul literally in your mind died 50-some years ago getting cut in half, but he didn't die. And it's canon, and it's official. He survives that, but with the help of his brother and his hatred and the use of the dark side, he survives it. It actually plays a very significant role in the galaxy for quite a while during the Clone Wars, and he goes through a lot of things. So skip ahead. If you don't want to hear any of this, skip ahead a few minutes. I also recommend that if you are planning on getting yourself caught up, watch the Clone Wars. It's on Netflix. I think it's still on Netflix. It's awesome. Great cartoon, great anthology series. It goes over all of this stuff and what he does. But yeah, I mean, one of those things then is that in the Clone Wars you get to find out of a love interest that Obi-Wan Kenobi has, a Mandalorian, if I remember correctly, and he just straight up kills her. He kills her because of that.
Man.
Oh yeah, it's vicious. It's vicious. You get a lot of extra time between Obi-Wan and Maul, which is a great rivalry, and it really should be.
Yeah.
Is it a leap to accept that Maul is still alive after that fight? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But it's not too far of a leap when you're talking about lightsabers and spaceships and droids and Jedis. And all right, you can come on, take a bite of that pie. It doesn't taste too bad. It's actually pretty damn tasty. But it's really pretty cool. So Twin Suns, we're talking about Star Wars Rebels Season 3, the second to last episode of the season, which aired this last Saturday, was the final confrontation. Everybody knew there would be a final confrontation between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul. The only thing that sucks about it is that Rebels confirms that Darth Maul and Darth Vader are around at the same time. In fact, they're very close to each other at one point, but they do not meet, and even more so, they do not fight. And damn, that would have been awesome. The only person I would have rather killed Maul besides Kenobi is Darth Vader. Just be like, who the fuck is this guy? And just, and then a Vader and Maul fight just ensues. That would be so nuts.
Oh man. Yeah, but the moment that I really came away from this specific showdown was again, that's another thing you pointed out too, was a certain stance
Right.
Obi-Wan took. And it's funny because one of the things you see and you're like, I swear I've seen that before, but you didn't really think a whole lot about it. There's a setup beforehand, there's a bit of dialogue, but Obi-Wan purposely takes one of Qui-Gon's stances, and Darth Maul comes at him with an attack pattern pretty much, if you look back at the original episode you saw this on, page for page, what he used to take Qui-Gon down, but Obi-Wan cancels that out and ends up just straight out cutting him down. And that's elegant, and it wasn't done in a dramatic, super flashy, ridiculous scene, but it made a statement. In a lot of ways, and it was just a full stop. Like, this is done.
There's an enormous amount of contrast in the whole thing, in so many different levels too. There's that which is Kenobi tricking Maul by using Qui-Gon's old stance, tricking Maul into using his old move that he used to kill Qui-Gon, which then Kenobi uses to get him off guard and kills him. It's a very quick fight, which a lot of people were upset about. I thought it was beautifully done. It was perfectly done. You know, you're also contrasting, which is literally the first thing that we ever know about a Jedi was Kenobi, and then looking at the beginning of prequels, an introduction of a Sith besides Darth Vader, which we never really knew as a Sith. I mean, we knew, the Emperor and Vader and the dark side, but Maul is in a lot of ways a symbol of the new age of Star Wars with Sith and Jedi, and using double-bladed lightsabers and twirling around and jumping, and so there's contrasts abound. I mean, at the end of the day, Kenobi kicks his ass as well he should, because you have a for decades a frustrated, angry, tragic character in Maul. Whereas you have Kenobi, who's done nothing but evolve as a Jedi over those years. He should kill him quickly. It shouldn't be much of a fight.
Yeah, and I mean, and that shows it. In A New Hope, Kenobi, of course, with his standing, always carried the air of not only a very confident but a very capable Jedi. But what was interesting about him was he never went to lengths to try to drive that point home, really impress that. He always had an air of transcendence about him, and you knew that it was partially, of course, a result of his training and how far things had come and how strong he was, but also in the sense that he, again, another contrast to Maul, he's a character that's at peace with so many things. He recognizes the importance of or the balance of the Force and whatnot, but he never makes it a point, I think, to overimpose his presence, or overimpose what he's doing. He gives markers, he gives guideposts, but he doesn't jump in the middle of everything to try and rule or to try and completely dictate every instance that happens. In fact, he largely leaves that Luke's in the others' hands, and I think that's makes him a strong character.
And Kenobi has a lot to try to make peace with, considering what had happened.
He does.
The Jedi Order and everything, but he does make peace with it.
Yeah.
And I think that is honestly, I think there's a lot of why you hear Kenobi talk a lot about the vision of a perspective of truth and such. It's like, I'm sure for years Kenobi thought that the Jedi Order was just the way that things should be. It has to accept the fact that it's not, and that the whole thing has crashed down, and accepting what's happened versus what you thought what was the way of things. I think that's part of why he's made to be insightful as he is in the ways that he is.
Yeah.
I think it's used very well. It was great. It was, it's a kid show, despite the fact that you do see the occasional death, and there is the occasional death, like with Maul. It's really well done, though.
Yeah. Loved it, and hopefully I'll use that as some momentum as I get into actually watching Rogue One when it comes out.
Yeah, well, and, it's funny because there are a couple, because of the time frame, you do see a couple glimpses of people from Rebels in Rogue One, and that's all I'm going to say. Because Rogue One, which happens immediately before Episode 4, the first Star Wars movie, Rebels is the lead up to that, which had started about 5 years before Episode 4, and is leading closer and closer and closer. And I think we're within a couple years, I think. Maybe even within a year at this point. And they don't tell us much, because you don't know the fate of everybody in Rebels. But there are a couple things. Like, for example, and I'll spoil this one, there's a droid in Rebels, Chopper. And you do see Chopper very quickly in the movie, and it has been confirmed that it is him. Okay, well, that's not a real big deal. So we know the droid sticks around. Well, the droid can get his ass kicked and get rebuilt. So that doesn't really say anything. So there's a couple others as well. But, that's kind of neat. Especially if you've been a Rebels fan, if you've been watching Star Wars Rebels, and, to see them in some form in the movie. So, so good stuff there.
Yep.
Let's see. So we got one other thing before we talk about Iron Fist.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I brought up briefly, and this is again kind of related to DCEU, but not really. If you're following the news for Deadpool 2 and Cable and all that, there's been a lot of names brought up as far as who's playing Cable. And I guess maybe the flavor of the week right now, but I don't know. This one seems to stick for me. Michael Shannon is currently being said to be the front runner to play Cable in Deadpool 2. Deadpool 2.
Hmm.
Do you know who that is?
Briefly.
Sort of. Zod. That's Zod from Man of Steel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So there's the relation. I think that's a good pick.
I mean, he's a solid gritty character. I could very well see him as Cable, and especially making those kind of drastic moral decisions he does.
Yeah, as far as I can remember, he doesn't really have the overall just massive size. Like he's built. He's got that, like you said, that gritty look. I think he could act it. I think he could act the shit out of it. Really.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of the thing where a lot of people complain that Logan in the movies is so tall because the actor's that tall, whereas Wolverine's really like 6'2". But if Cable's got to be short and everything else is fine, I can deal with that.
Same, absolutely same.
But I think it's an interesting pick. I like this one. Pierce Brosnan, I think, was the last big name to be put out for that. That's a horrible idea. Absolutely retarded.
James Bond. I mean, Cable Bond. Never mind.
Yeah, that wouldn't work. But yeah, so Michael Shannon thought it was a good pick. We're getting close enough to where they have to pick somebody now.
Yeah.
They have to. You have to start shooting this. So it's in the ends of pre-production, I believe, at this point. They're going to start knocking this thing out really soon. So
cool.
So what do you think of that? You think he can do it?
Yeah. Heck yeah! Give him a run at it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Iron Fist?
That's the show, everyone. Oh, Iron Fist. No.
I was like, no, you get back here. You get back here. We got some.
I was impressed. You worked hard.
Yes,
is my understanding, to make sure that you watched this.
I grinded this one. Here's where I was sitting. I said, okay, look, I got behind in Daredevil. I got behind in Luke Cage. I got behind in Vulture. Like
no, hold on. You're still behind in all three of them.
I said I got behind. I didn't say I got. Okay. I didn't say I got beyond them. Did I?
I kind of get the impression that you were implying that you had gotten caught up.
No. I got behind,
okay.
And there was no redemption. There was no way. There is still no way out right now. Well, there is a way out. I seem to do it, but you get the idea. The point is behind in all these series, and I said, okay, look, good lord, here comes another one. Look, the last thing I want to do is get backlogged again on something else. So I set aside as much time as I could, push through. I think push is the key, because the first couple episodes, especially the first, 4 to 6 running up, it's kind of slow. Slow starter building up with this one, but you know what? Finished the run, pressed on through it, and I thought it's actually some pretty interesting stuff to the Iron Fist canon I thought about.
Overall, I give this a win.
Yeah.
But it was a well fought win.
Yeah.
This one did not come easy. All right, so we talked about a couple weeks ago where a lot of the critics were just panning the shit out of this, which I thought was undeserving at the time, although I wasn't totally clear about everything that they were able to see. They had only seen half the episodes. And if all you saw were those first 6 episodes, probably deserved it. Deserved it. The whole thing about the fact that he's not Asian, absolutely ridiculous. And if you watch this whole series, that is even more ridiculous. It makes even less sense. No, overall, this show is great. But the first, especially I think the first 3 episodes, that's rough.
Yeah.
And I could see people dropping off.
You're just slogging through it. You have the whole. The financial empires, the struggle with the Meachums and everything like that. It's plotting. It's real plotting stuff. Most of the time you see these struggles as, let's say, said hero tries to establish his own powers, or he's dealing with trying to fit in society. But this is a guy that just can't even get his identity, his basic identity confirmed, and it's like straight. Well, you're not Danny Rand. No, you're not Danny Rand. No, take the side trip into an asylum. You're not. Maybe you're Danny Rand. It's like, oh my goodness. Like,
It's very hard. It's very hard to tell where the hell this show is going. For
yeah,
like the first, I would say even the first 4 or 5. And I think by the 5th episode, you can kind of see where things are going. You can
right.
see that the planting of the seeds that they did with the first few is going to, whether good or bad, there's an intention to have it pay off
Yeah,
as it goes on. But the problem with those first few episodes is that you're not supposed to feel like you're actually trying to watch a plant grow.
right.
And it's so slow, and there's not enough. There's not enough
No.
there, and this is probably my biggest complaint of the whole first season is that there's not enough there, and I can completely see if people dropped off.
Yeah,
And and if they did, they will have missed out at the end because there is a payoff. These characters which are taking up too much time in those first few episodes, it does pay off. Everything that they do there does matter. And with these characters, especially and I say that, and now I can't remember the names. Joy and Ward, right?
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, and what was their last name though?
Meacham.
The Meachums, and even all of them, they do become interesting.
Yeah.
They were very boring and uninteresting at first. even Danny Rand is. It's a very cliche story at the start. It really isn't very good at the beginning.
No.
I keep circling back to that. I circle back to it easily. The second half of this series was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It gets really good, and my general complaint about the critics beforehand was when they were saying there wasn't enough action. You're wrong. You're wrong, and the action is great.
There's tons. It's pretty cool. You transition from the hints at martial style training and the origins of Iron Fist to this whole Shadow Order. This reminded me a lot of the League of Shadows from Batman, and sort of this order that works in the shadows to enforce a certain agenda, but in the same hand, there's a counter order to them, and on top of that, you have Danny himself in the middle of this sort of being weaponized, and he's caught having to make these decisions. It's like, do you stay by that, what your quote unquote purpose is to be, and become this weapon to go against the hand, or do you really follow what moral questions that you have, in those kind of tests, or go along with was it Madame Gao? And some of the things that she really tried to feed into his mind. Like, she toyed with them a lot about this. I think even as she's introduced, she takes the hostage and says, "Look, I don't care anything about honor. Look, if you don't kill this member of the hand that Danny had at his mercy at that point, said, look, you don't kill him, I'll let this girl go. You do, and I'm slit her throat, like straight out." And Danny's immediately caught in this web of what's supposed to be his quote-unquote responsibility, as opposed to what he feels is he humanely should do. And he takes that humane choice, and I think that takes him on a completely different turn, a different arc. So he's bucking against two systems, and I think that's really cool, because like in Batman, you had Bruce Wayne and then the League of Shadows, but you got that whole League of Shadows concept, but it's like you have another counter League of Shadows that he's technically working for, which makes a really cool plot device. And then those around him, especially the martial artist Colleen, ends up getting pulled into this. And
oh my lord, dude! I've got a new favorite chick in the planet,
right?
Now in the universe,
Right?
Colleen Wing and Jessica Henwick. Oh
yeah.
My gosh, that is. I mean, she's badass and she's beautiful. Oh my lord!
Yeah.
I can't help when I'm watching it half the time. I'm like, God damn, she's hot.
Yeah.
I'm not wrong, am I?
No, you're not.
Great actress. She kicks ass.
Yeah.
Great. Here's the thing, and this is what they've been able to do in just about every case. And Marvel continues to do it in this series, is that the actors even if you question what's going on, and if they're at the end of the day, the actresses, the actresses, the roles, they're very well done. The people that they bring on to play these roles are great. Danny
Yeah,
Rand, great character. They really flesh it out. The actor does a great job with it. It's still probably some of the strongest stuff with these Marvel Netflix shows. Not just talking about how hot they are, but even like these characters are great. Madame Gao is awesome, and the actress they
yeah,
have for her is awesome. I mean, she's doing her job when you don't notice how much she's doing her job.
yeah, yeah,
And it's they strike it out of the park again in that area. But this is not. I've still been trying to decide which one I like more between this and Luke Cage, and I haven't been able to decide yet.
mm,
Daredevil is still by far the best of all of them.
yeah,
Um, which I guess he's also the more comic book superhero type out of all of them. Like none of the other ones even wear costumes.
yeah.
Luke Cage kind of gets close.
Yeah, Luke Cage does. To be fair, Iron Fist is supposed to. He gets one way later on.
Does he?
Yeah, it's kind of looks like it's not like a tracksuit. It's like a skin tight fit. His classic look was like yellow and green, but I've also seen him rock he has the symbol like on his chest, and he's rocked like a black and yellowish theme tied with that too. So at some point, I think in later seasons we might actually see him
Hmm.
don that, but
Yeah, but it really picks up steam. It does really well. Now, there are some very cliche things in this, and that tends to happen in comic book movies in general. I would say that Iron Fist is one of the more cliche outings that Marvel's had, be it a series or a movie. There's not, while there is some unknown territory that they cover, there's really not a lot.
right,
You're not really seeing. You're seeing another version of a story you've seen many times before,
right,
which is okay. I would say that is a downfall of it, though. It's not very original.
right.
Um, but yeah, overall, I mean, it's worth it. It's definitely worth your time. It's worth the 13 episodes. If you're a Marvel fan, I mean, here you go. And just 3 months before we get the Defenders. Um,
Right on.
anything else non-spoilerish we should say before we go into spoilers?
Ah, just about as far as basics of the series. I think we've covered the general ideas. You said a lot of the tropes, cliches, and things that you pick up on. I think aren't very far fetched for the basic frame of the story and how that's built. So, nah, I think we
You
just
said
jump right into the meat.
you said the martial arts is phenomenal, it really is. And in fact, one of the other complaints that before the show came out, the critics were saying that they do not take advantage of using directors and choreographers with a lot of a martial arts background. Also wrong, completely wrong.
Yeah, that was wrong.
In fact, I cannot remember that at the time, but the showrunner or the director, and at least person who's choreographing a lot of this show, have extensive martial arts Hollywood backgrounds,
Oh yeah,
and it shows in how they show the action.
it does.
So again, completely wrong. Yeah, so I think that's it. You should watch it. I think that's it for non-spoilers. We should go into spoilers.
All right.
Okay, what was your favorite part of the series?
I gotta say, you know, just because of everything surrounding it, it was the season in Katana Battle.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
with Colleen, I thought was pretty awesome.
Hmm.
Especially because she's thrust into this again a similar decision that um, Danny gets pushed into in like around episode 5 or 6 when he runs into Madame Gao. Uh, she manages to do some pretty darn ingenious ways. I love how she used her broken sword even to bring down someone associated with the hand, and yet again she's placed in this circumstance of take this guy out or take the justice course. She does a similar choice to Danny at first. It says, hey, we need to put this through due process. None of these guys have ever been caught by the law. He needs to get submitted to that, and then maybe if we shed some light in this, then we'll get some clarity. And then that's all completely shut down and washed away, and she's dwarfed again by this whole world of the hand and then the forces that go against that. I thought the scene really stood out, especially because that one flowed right into a pretty involved scene for Danny. He recognized that a lot of the situation was less about executing their order, but rather some old bitterness that was being held for him leaving Kunlun in the first place and actually coming to New York. So I like the character play on that. I like the decisions they were both placed into, and then this part of the setup that left for going into the next season. But I thought that whole thing was really well done.
Going over the whole thing, I enjoyed. Obviously, I enjoyed the character of Colleen, but I really did enjoy the relationship between her and Danny.
Yeah,
I thought that was well done. I thought there was definitely some chemistry there that worked well. If I have to pick my favorite part of the series, what I keep coming back to, probably one of my favorite moment of the show, was the fight between the Iron Fist and what's his name, the Guardian of the Hand, the drunken fighting guy.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
That was intense, man. And it's just cool little twists like that. I think how a lot of these scenes get set up in Iron Fist, or like there's an air of uncertainty about them, and I think it's good that you keep both sides sort of with some cards close to their chest. Even in some of the scenes that aren't as important as that, this doesn't quite compare to the one you just named, of course, but when Colleen's going on these trips to participate in like street fighting, underground fighting, to help with their finances, and she goes against these huge guys and everything, but you don't. It's kind of cool. She's skilled, but you don't know her whole book. And she's always bringing out something else that just completely like surprises you. And the fight you named against the drunken style again, very similar. Going into that, okay, this is going to be awesome. But part of you is asking, wait, how exactly is this going to pan out? They deliver, I think, each time.
I was laying down while I was watching that. I actually when I saw the setup for that fight, I actually sat up. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good shit. And it was really good. That was my I think that was my favorite moment, and honestly, that's the way it should be, because I mean, this is the Iron Fist. This is all about martial arts. So I should be leaving this show finding that the martial arts was the best part.
Yeah.
Like I said, it delivers just fine in that department. I think the martial arts was fine. We're not overloaded with it. It's not like it does. The story doesn't suffer for it. In fact, it complements it really well. I think. I really enjoyed how this whole season, this whole series to this point, everything it said about destiny, what people feel their destiny is, what they've created their destiny to be, when they've reached the destiny and then have found that it's not what they thought it would be, and search for something else. It says the show has a lot to say here, and it doesn't shove it down your throat, but at the same time, it really is what the whole series is about.
It is, and heck, pointing to that, I think that it really reminds me of the scene where you have it's the one with the Iron Fist defending the entrance to like Kunlun, and then viewers realizing at the same time that, wait, Danny's not the Iron Fist we're looking for, like at least not in this season. And you expect certain build-ups, I think, to go to a point. It's like, okay, here's where the main character gets like a huge boost, and this is where we're going to focus on this aspect the rest of the time. Then you don't, or there's something in their whole process that blocks that. And heck, I think you got it right here and a few other good spots. So it's not always what you expect. There's not always the types of decisions you expect to be made, but I think that's a good thing.
What'd you think of the Meachums overall,
You,
especially the dad?
yeah, this is so interesting because I assume that just right off the bat, at least you're led to believe that okay, this is just going to be like an issue of power, money grubbing and everything. But the irony is, it's the it's the dad that gives really, Danny this whole introduction. Helps all this get set up. I mean, the Meach brother and sister, they're both sitting. Joy and again, here I am butchering names again. Gosh,
Ward.
thank you. Joy and Ward, debating over whether it's him or not, with Joy leaning slightly more towards it is. And the dad really just comes in and just kind of blows it off all this. He's completely fascinated. And Danny's mentioned, he recognizes the issues like behind the hand and everything, and here he is goading him on to, all right, you got to go for it, man. You got to embrace what you got. And hey, give him his rights, give him his due, make him a member of the board, pull him in. In fact, give him the old office, like everything else. I thought that was kind of funny. Um,
Mhm.
but then in the same hand, how that turns almost nightmarish. You look near the end, Ward, as he's in he's strapped down in that facility,
Mhm.
and he starts having just straight up just delusions, like just nightmares and waking dreams about being haunted by the dad, or like possibly about to be killed, or like cannibalized, or something else, something like that. So I didn't expect, I guess, the dad to get as involved or to be the trigger that he was for sort of enabling Danny to fully step into this world without having to go through all the BS he did at first. And the biggest part of that I think about too is it's funny. And I said, man, you know, we people that we perceive as not having much, or being like, we treat them like dirt, like,
Mhm.
and we would too, and that's the inclination. I did kind of chuckle at that because he said, what would everyone's first reaction be? Like, yeah, this guy's an idiot. He's obviously a liar. You look at him walking around with no shoes and everything else, and it just it's a really light point to make, but it's a point at almost like a satire on vanity. It reminds me of one of my favorite authors, V.S. Naipaul. He wrote a book, a short story I love, called "In a Free State," and it's completely focused around that idea of a man who comes over from India, and from where he's from, it was completely common, to be barefoot in the marketplace near your home. You could still greet people that way out in public and everything. It was no big deal. Everyone was really, really relaxed. And he comes over to the U.S. and just gets this culture shock. He's getting treated like garbage because he's not walking. He's in the Washington area, but he's not walking around super cleaned up in suits, or hardly wearing shoes. He's getting refused service, denied everywhere he goes. He's like almost put in jail in a couple of situations and things like that. And I couldn't help but think of Danny here, for at least the start of it, first 3 or 4 episodes, and the way he's treated. But before he's even allowed to have the type of dialogue he deserves or step into the rest of this world. So it's kind of funny. But the overall point of that is it makes that segue for his character to kind of be explaining this world outside of the context of, oh, that's just the rich guy, or there is another Bruce Wayne style character being introduced.
Mhm. I agree. At the same time, though, I think I don't know. For me, the whole initial story of Danny Rand coming back and coming to, well, actually, his motives with the company aren't completely clear at first. I
Right.
mean, obviously, this is something he cares about, but they're not totally clear as to what he wants to do. Maybe he doesn't even totally know.
Right.
And maybe they're vague about it on purpose. But I think it's one of and I think this is a minor complaint, but this whole thing about him with the company and Ward and Joy, it gets lost,
Yeah.
and we have to spend a few episodes with it, and while it works to pay off at the end for the whole story, it feels a bit unended and
Yeah.
unresolved. Especially the contrast of this kid who grew up in a monastery, the whole thing with learning kung fu and being an American in an Asian monastery and such. It really gets lost.
Yeah.
I think a bit. Um, I think it's interesting because I think the actors for Danny, Joy, and Ward do not carry those first few episodes. They can't.
No,
It's almost
no.
embarrassing how badly they do it. But then when you put in some of the other supporting characters, you get Colleen, you get the father whose name I can't remember at the moment. Um, you start getting the hand in there.
Right.
You get Night Nurse in there. Um, they all flesh it out really well. It's kind of weird how the contrast works with that. Where you start getting some of the supporting characters in there, and then it all just works not just fine. It works really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those first few episodes, and there's not enough story there. And while these things are often recorded and shot outside of order, it really feels like we are not only are we being introduced to these characters for the first time, but so are the actors.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
There's a bit of an uneasiness to it.
Yeah, you have this clash in a way, and there's this awkward feel before all of this meshes, and I think that was a concern as well. As you said, from that rocky start, you have this weird setup as sort of like, wait, this is kind of like maybe the West Wing like 2.0 or something, but wait, veer off into the martial arts realm. Oh, wait, veer off into the mysticism. Oh, wait, veer off into, okay, wait. How is all this going to actually come together? And it
It
does.
does, yeah, it does. But it's almost now thinking back, and it's almost kind of surprising how it does.
Yeah.
But it does. But yeah, those first few episodes are brutal.
Yeah.
They really are.
So we can't stress that enough. Anybody looking to get into this one, have some patience. I know.
Yeah.
Um, Iron Fist fans aren't the first thing I know to find when you're talking about Marvel comics or Marvel movies and everything like that. But just wait on this one a bit. And I think it's worth still waiting it out, even after you see it. I think you'll find enough content to run with here. We'll see where it goes. Obviously, in the future season or so to come out. But yeah, if you can make it, get it. But
Just keep hopeful for those Colleen scenes, and then eventually the rest of the show picks up.
yeah,
It's the truth. Don't tell me that's not true, because that's true.
no, you're not lying.
It does pick up with it though. What do you think of the ending?
Yeah,
Like the
it's
very end. By ending, I mean the very end, like the last couple minutes when they're up in the mountains.
sort of cliffhanger.
Like
Yeah, literally.
literally.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's pretty. I was wondering if they were going to stay just with the situations that were actually happening in the city itself, without bringing outside of it, and only maybe bring us somewhere in season 2 into that, or maybe segue it somewhere else. But no, they had it right there. It's um, I think Danny's sort of leading this expedition.
How cool was that, by the way, that they finally left New York?
Yeah,
One of these shows
yeah,
finally left New York City.
which is why I was so curious if how they were going to do that, because most of these they always stay within their locale. You
But yeah,
don't.
no, they're just like, all right, we're gonna leave. Okay, let's go.
But that's healthy. I think a lot of Marvel, even mainline MCU stuff that we see doesn't always follow that formula. Doctor Strange. It's one of the more recent movies I saw constantly breaking location a whole lot. Um,
Very, very much needed. A lot of people were starting to complain that they never leave New York, and while I
yeah,
haven't minded too much, it was definitely time for one of these shows to go somewhere else.
yeah,
I'm very hopeful for that when it comes to the Punisher show, who is not unlike the rest of these characters, especially Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and Luke Cage, are known for being Manhattan, Hell's Kitchen superheroes, whereas the Punisher is not, and has literally gone everywhere in the world just to kill a guy. And
yeah,
and I'm hoping we see that again. I'm hoping very little of it is spent in New York, and we get to see Punisher in the jungle, or Punisher
sure.
in China, or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's deserved. Last time I remember a really fast intrusive break like that was during, I think, the second Dark Knight movie. There was um, there was some kind of banker or someone who had some form of international or national immunity, and he went over to China, and bats went there and basically snatched him out of his office and brought him back to the U.S. for prosecution. You
That
know,
was great.
yeah, it was great. It was such a short moment early in the film, but it was powerful. It was great because anytime you get these characters out of their environment and they carry the same type of like inviolability or power and weight behind their character is just awesome. You know you're always like, oh great, like I was saying, with Batman, even here you are just jumping over international boundaries. I know
What
I'd be just as thrilled if Spidey did something like that, but oh well. Story.
what did you think of? I was surprised when we saw Danny's friend from the monastery. I thought that was
Yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah,
What'd you think of that and the turn at the end?
yeah. That tied into. If I think I'm basing this right. That tied into the other point I was hinting at earlier. One of the final action scenes with Colleen. Um, this we've been enmeshed in this whole issue, with the hand and everything, but there's a lot of, if I'm thinking the right character, there's a lot of bitterness
Hmm.
that's been held, and
It's a good relationship. I think while you never want a relationship like that, I think it's done
right.
well in the show, and it's very. I think it's very
It
realistic as far as scenarios like that.
it is, so you have the one side of how Danny was taken in, and he's a survivor, but eventually he leaves this place, and so often you never get the reverse, the converse side of how that party that the camera is never focused on, how do they actually feel? How are they impacted by this? How does it affect them? Sometimes that's introduced abruptly. Again, I'll use Batman as an example. You had the League of Shadows, but let's face it, League of Shadows is pretty darn faceless, except for Ra's al Ghul. He was really the only voice of that we got to see any sort of reaction out of. And if anything, that was just one of vengeance. He said, well, Bruce Wayne took his home, so he would respond in kind. And you sort of have a parody of that here. It's not as drastic, obviously. He's not going to, burn down New York or anything like that. But there's some very real bitterness against Danny for his decision, for leaving, for everything else. Time didn't heal any of that. He very much holds it against him. And the interesting part too is he's willing to not really be a surrogate, but really do what Danny won't always. He's trying to steer him more towards the hard line, saying this is necessary. You can't just keep living willy nilly and not pay any attention to what we're meant to do, what we're meant to be, and how we need to stop these guys. And so he wants to really keep Danny on that hard line, straight and narrow. I think that makes even more of a conflict for him. So
Oh
good.
yeah, I think it's well done. I mean, you can tell you can feel the relationship there, but at the same time, you can tell that. I think both the actors do a good job of showing the conflict within the characters, and what they bring out of each other, but at the same time, the friendship.
Yeah.
At the end, of course, I can't remember his name. He's obviously going to be around again, and he's pretty pissed. And I mean, this kind of goes again into Destiny and what Destiny can do to a person.
Right.
Where again, you have somebody here who's been set up throughout the show to be one of the good guys, but
Right.
but through following Destiny and what I think anyone can relate with as far as a conflict very easily turns into one of the bad guys at the end.
Oh
And,
yeah.
and for doing something that's completely in character.
Yeah. Yeah. Could couldn't agree more with that statement. The thing I think about well constructed antagonists is it doesn't always have to be a super villain who does some sort of drastic action against the world just for the hell of it because they want to be evil. No, there's some very real purpose and motivation, and you understand it. If anything, it is the non-agreement of two worlds, or a direct conflict of orders, or what two sides believe to be order, or even what three sides believe to be order. I think that's what we have in this case. You have the multiple models of the way things are quote unquote supposed to be. And then those who are just kind of throwing a wrench in things, like Madame Gao, just really screwing with people's heads. But uh, that's great. I think that way that sort of makes you really play in your own mind. Who's the antagonist here, or what's really polarizing about all this? You
Hmm.
know? And how are these characters thrust into that? What do they do with it? So
So I mean, I sidetracked us though. The very ending though, I thought that kind of sucked. You know, they make the climb back to Kunlun.
right.
And it was exactly what I thought we were going to see: a couple dead guys, and
Yep.
then this empty gate. But a little confused at the same time as what we were supposed to see. So is the gate closed? Now you know a little bit more about you know a little bit about Iron Fist. You definitely know a lot more than I do from listening to you about this. Is the gate closed, or was Kunlun destroyed?
Uh
It's a
it's
little unclear, isn't it?
it is it's this stepped into a part of the grounds of something I'd never personally read or gone into or anything like that. But I think you can play with that. Uh, I read it more as the gate first because I always saw. I mean, yeah, there's Kunlun itself, but there's always like the larger order that I didn't think the whole thing was correct as of yet. But that's at least the gate analogy is really where I saw it from.
Sorry, there was a huge yawn there.
No,
I'm tired. It's late.
no, no, I get it. It's just
Yeah.
that boring. No,
No, no,
no,
no,
no, I
not at
know.
all.
No, go on. I
Exhausted.
know. I know.
I didn't think they should hear it. If I can remember, I'm gonna cut all this out. If not, it's funny. But yeah, I think it was well done. I think on a scale from 1 to 10, perfectly aligned cheese, what would you give it?
Ah, well, I think that my cheese still feeling a little out of whack here, just a bit. But for all the by the way, the episodes being named after like attack names and everything, and like in forms and like stand
Mhm.
that made me smile. Um,
Yeah, that was fun.
if I had to rate it, I'm gonna give this a solid 7.
Okay, all right. I'm still dancing around. I may change, but I've been between 6 to 7 as well. I think I'm
Yeah,
sitting more at 6.
yeah,
Um, you do not have a full contrast to this, sir. You are missing out on some of these shows.
this is true. That's the other angle as well. I'm not contrasting this to Luke Cage. I haven't seen Daredevil in its entirety. That's another side of it I'm missing. I mean, of course, once all this meshes into Defenders at some point,
Right.
it's going to behoove all of us to delve in a bit more. But it surprised me. I think in a good way. Of course, not blow me out of my seat, but okay, there's substance here. And
Yeah.
that's really what I wanted to come away from this season with. I said, can I make it through the end of these 12 and say that? Yeah, there is. So hey, it's a victory.
I hope they've got a lot to play with here to bring these characters together for the Defenders. I hope it comes off well. It should. That this is, again, you have situations like the first couple episodes where these actors just aren't carrying this show quite well at this moment, but it all comes together.
Right.
It all does well at the end, and I'm hoping. One of the things that I know for me, a lot of people are just like the Avengers, where the Avengers did a perfect job of bringing everybody together. A lot of people are. This is obviously being compared with. A lot of people are hoping they can do the same with the Defenders, and bring them together in an appropriate way.
Right.
Obviously, you've got the Night Nurse there, and that makes sense to use her. But how they do that, really. Man, I'm looking forward to it. I'm also just looking forward to more Daredevil. It's been too long. I know season 3 is coming, but it's been too long. It's always such a long wait for Daredevil.
Yeah, it is. It is such a just from what I've seen, it's such a good show too.
It's still the flagship. It really is. And the show, the Iron Fist does a great job, and you've talked about this.
Yeah.
Does a great job of continuing on the story of the Hand and bringing it to an appropriate conclusion. Maybe not the final conclusion for these characters, but bringing it to a conclusion.
Yeah.
At the end of this show, it does a good job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean. I think right now I'm definitely sitting between 6 and 7.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to be flaky. I mean, here I am coming up with a rating system. I pulled out the 8.5 for Logan when you were all like, "Oh, I can't go halvesy on it. That would be lame." And then I
I
pulled
mean,
it right
hey,
after you
with Logan,
didn't
I
do it.
get it. Hey, the Foot Claw, I was there with you, man. I was all down, but you got some problems with your chi.
My chi is not aligned. I cannot pick. I cannot pick my chi is not perfectly aligned. I'm not sure,
oh man, but
but
uh,
I'm definitely between the 6 and 7 range. That's the best. That's the best you're gonna get from me right now.
fair enough.
Um, so yeah, Defenders 3 months. Do you how much? Well, see now, and I'll ask. No, I'll ask this anyways. Where do you think they're gonna? Where do you think they're gonna pull the story out of? Do you think it's gonna come out of one of these main characters' previous seasons, or do you think it's going to be something altogether new?
Yeah, I want to say that there's going to be a common line that unites them. Whether whose series it comes from, wouldn't be surprised. Actually, wouldn't be surprised if it's Daredevil because he's has such a major role in all of this. But
Mm-hmm.
it I think it would have to be a large enough threat for all three of them to notice. And I think if it does,
All
uh,
four.
all four. I'm sorry. I'm leaning more towards DD's end. We'll see.
Just because you've only seen a couple episodes of Luke Cage doesn't mean he's not real.
This is true. I thought. See, I thought he was a figment. Just man, let me live in my own fantasy world. Dang it.
If I remember correctly, I think they said the main villain for the Defenders miniseries is new.
Ah,
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's not pulled out of somewhere. And that being said, you know who the actress is for that, right?
no.
Sigourney Weaver.
Ah, freaking Ripley.
Yeah, you didn't know that? Oh my god.
No.
Oh, yeah, Sigourney Weaver's going to play the main villain. I think they said it's someone new. It's all right if it is or if it's not. The MCU does this enough. They give enough fanfare. At the same time, it's okay if they go their own way. Yeah, they do things well enough. I think, in my opinion. Let me say, in my opinion. Looking forward to it. 8 episodes coming in June, I believe. And actually, if you can kill some time for a second while I look that up.
You bet. Yeah, as far as what we're looking at, episodic other releases or the rest of the series are going out. I'm also wondering if in addition to Defenders, if we were going to get any other like side snapshots, or maybe DCU was starting anything Netflix related. I didn't know if they even had anything
Well,
along the lines of what Marvel has.
they basically own the CW.
Okay, okay. I'm just kind of wondering if we're going to have anything to kind of to compare this Defenders block off of.
Yeah, but they all intertwine. Arrow and and Flash.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Supergirl. And the Defenders. No, not Defenders. I forget the. Oh, that's horrible of me. I haven't watched it, but I should at least know it. In fact, they're getting another one. I believe in Black Lightning. I think they're getting a fifth one in that.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean they do that, and they do that every week, and a lot of people believe that DC is still doing it right. Which, as far as I can tell, I've watched a fair amount of Arrow and Flash. It's fun. It's not quite my cup of tea. It's good stuff though. It's quality. I've seen a good amount of Flash. I really enjoyed it. It's for me when it comes to TV shows, especially with Netflix and Marvel coming out. Hey, I've got to pick and choose. I've only got so many hours. You and I barely made it through this week to watch
Yeah,
this,
tell me about it. Yeah.
I can't be watching a whole block of shows, hour-long shows on CW as well. I can't be opening and closing all kinds of jars.
Just please stop crossing the streams.
Major points if you catch that reference. By the way, did you catch it?
I think I did, but I can't guarantee it.
That's all right. That's all right. Not finding a release date here. I'm almost positive it's June. I'm 99% sure it's coming out in June. It's coming out 3 months after Iron Fist. I will know for sure next week. And you guys all have the same Google resources I do, so
so go use it.
yeah. But yeah, all right. So I think that's
Yeah.
a show.
Yeah, that's gonna have to do it for now. I gotta get ready to turn in myself uh,
Yeah.
for tomorrow. But hey, anyway, hey, thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll have more for you next week. That's as always, we have episode reviews, but we have slated to talk about a bit of Nintendo, maybe some Switching involved with that. But stay tuned.
Oh yeah, yeah. So you started the show. I'm going to close it out this week, and I'm going to try it. I'm going to get it right this time. Because I don't think I've actually closed the show well yet.
Hit it.
So let's see. All right. Okay. If you like to go, if you no, see, I already, shut up. I
Okay.
edited that out. It didn't happen. Okay. If you like the show, go ahead and click below and give us a like, and go ahead and follow us on YouTube. If you have any comments, feel free to comment below. You can also email us at caseallmedia at gmail.com, caseallmedia at gmail.com. Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
Easy peasy.
That wasn't too bad. All right. Also, send us some fan mail, whatever.
Whatever you feel like.
I did that. I bombed it on purpose. I was flying straight, and I took the handle and just drove it into the ground.
I was waiting for it. That guy.
Yeah. So next week, Legion.
Yep.
We didn't talk about Legion this week.
Let's save it. We'll have a couple to talk about.
All right, but we'll have the end to talk about.
We will.
Know that was renewed for season 2. That's confirmed.
Oh, I mean, rightfully so.
Yeah, no, that's not a surprise either, but it was confirmed. But yeah, so we'll have the end of Legion season 1. We'll talk about that. We will not skip Nintendo Switch stuff again. We'll definitely we obviously had a lot here this week though, so we pushed it back again. But yeah, we're gonna talk about the Switch, talk about the reviews, talk about its sales. Yeah, so yeah, okay, that's it. We're out of here.
Peace. Have a good week, everybody.